All right, so you are done with the front and you're ready to start the shoulder shaping on the front. So there's a few things I want to talk about the shoulder shaping. So let's take a quick look at the pattern. So first of all, we're right here where it says repeat these 2 rows until back measures, and this one right here is my size, so 6.5 inches. So I've done that, and now I'm ready to begin the shoulder shaping. So this part right here says that we're going to knit, in my case it's 34, then I'm going to bind off 50 stitches, okay? Then I'm going to knit to the last 5 stitches, and then I'm going to do a wrap and turn. All right, so let's bring in the sweater. You can see here that this is my front. I have already done the knit 34 stitches. I'm almost done binding off my stitches here. Actually, looks like some of these fell off here. Let's see. Let's get these back on the needle. Okay, so here is the current live stitch right here that I am using to bind off. So I actually stopped 5 stitches before the end here. So here's how I've been binding off right here. I've just been using a regular bind off. Because this is going to be a neckline, we actually want this to be pretty substantial so we can pick up stitches along here later if needed. So we don't want to use a stretchy bind off, we just want to use the regular one. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to knit 2 of them, right? And then I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to leapfrog over this one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is actually number 50, but I knew I had 5 to go. So 5, or in my case, that is 50. Okay, so now my job is to knit to the last 5 stitches, and we're going to do some short rows here. So I'm going to knit all the way across here, and I'm going to stop when I've got 5 stitches left over here. All right, so now I've knit to the last 5 stitches. So now I'm going to wrap and turn. So a wrap and turn goes like this. The little mantra that you're going to say to yourself goes slip, move, just like that. So I'll show you what that means. So what you're going to do is you're going to slip the next stitch. You're going to move the yarn from wherever it is to the opposite side of the work. So I'm currently knitting, so it's in the back, so I'm going to bring it to the front. Then I'm going to slip that stitch back to where it came from, and then I'm going to move the yarn back to where it came from as well. And you can see I've made this cute little loop around this stitch right here, so that is a wrapped stitch. So now I'm to turn it over and I'm going to purl to the end. So I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to purl all the way back to the end, just like that. So I'll flip the whole thing over, and here we go. All right, so that's my last purl. So now I'm going to flip the whole thing over again, and we're going to continue our shoulder shaping here. Okay, so let's just pull this aside and let's look at what the pattern says here. All right, so we purled to the end. Now we're going to repeat from the star. So the star is right here. So we're going to knit to the last 5 stitches, except for instead of knitting to the very last 5 stitches, which is what we're going to do before, we're going to work to the specified number of stitches before the last wrapped stitch. So the specified number for me is number 5. So let's take a quick look here. And you can see there is a pretty noticeable gap right before your wrapped stitch. So you can see right here, this particular stitch has a wrap on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to knit to 5 stitches before that. So here's the wrapped stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we are going to knit right to here, leaving these 5 stitches and the wrap stitch unworked, okay? So we're going to work back and forth like that. For me, it's going to be 5 times. If you are this size or this size and it says 0, that means you only do it once, okay? That means if you're this size or this size, you just skip all of this, okay? Now, after that, we're going to knit to 4 stitches before the last wrap stitch. So we're still going to continue with our back and forth wrap and turn. We're just changing the number of stitches, okay? So again, this is my size. Look how many times I'm doing this. This one's 0, so that means this size, you work through it 1 time and that's it. Me, I'm going to work through it 5 times. This size is once, this is skip. But if you get down to here, you'll see knit to 4 or there's a blank right here, okay? That means that if you are if you're this size or this size, you are just, which is what I am, that's the size I'm using, I'm just gonna skip this whole line all together, okay? And then purl to end, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna repeat from blah, 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 because I'm a blank, I'm just gonna blah, 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 skip that. So now I go straight from this part right here all the way down to knit all stitches, picking up the wraps and working them together as you go. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my short rows and then I'll show you how to pick up the wrap stitches as we come to them. Okay, I've got all my short rows done here. So just a quick little hint. So right here it says I'm supposed to repeat 5 more times, okay? So with the first wrap and turn that I did, then plus the other 5 is 6. So you have to add this, so I'm going to add this plus this, okay, which is just 5. So that gives me a total of 6. So that's how you can kind of check your work to make sure you're done. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You can see the little gaps there. So I'm done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit across all of the stitches and I'm going to pick up the wrap and turns as I go. So here's what that looks like. All right, so I'm approaching my first wrap stitch and you can kind of see there it is. There's a cute little wrap around it. So I am just going to pick up the front leg, the leg on the front side of the work and lift it onto the needle just like that. And then I'm going to pretend it's a knit 2 together. And then I'm going to just knit them together like this. So even though I'm only demonstrating this on the front of the work, when you're doing this with purling, you still pick up the leg on the front of the work and lift it onto the needle. Instead, you'll just purl them together. But here, we're just going to put the leg on the front of the work onto the needle, and then we're going to knit them together as if they were 1 stitch, and that's it. The whole point of short rows is to build bulk, right? So you can see where we've stopped here. So this stops here, and then this one is a little taller, and this one's a little taller and a little taller. So now we have this really nice angle on the shoulder to shape it. Okay, so after this, it's time to break the yarn, and then we're going to put, after you finish this row, of course, you're going to break your yarn, and you're going to put all of these stitches on waste yarn. Then it's time to join to the other shoulder, because really you only did 1, right? So it's time to join to the other shoulder, and you're going to do the exact same thing for the other shoulder. There's good instructions there, so follow that. Then after that, we are going to start working on the front. So if you look here, if I turn this, oh, let's see, okay, here's the back, or here's the front, here's the sides. Okay, so down here, I have all of these stitches that are on waste yarn here. Okay, so remember we've got these on the side here, and then we've got these on the side here, and then we have all of these stitches in the middle. This is the front. So now what we're going to do is I'm just going to attach my needles to these guys here. Otherwise, you would take those stitches and put them off of your waste yarn back onto your needles, and you're going to work those stitches for however many inches it calls for. So for example, mine is 4. So I'm going to work until my front is 4 inches, and then I'm going to start the shaping of the neck there, and that's pretty much the same thing. There is a little bind off of an unworked stitch, so I'm going to get there and then I'll meet you there so that we can do the shaping of the neck on the front. Okay, so we are done with the back, and we have the 2 back part of the shoulders on hold on waste yarn right now, and we're working on the front, and we've done the part where you bring the front up X number of inches, and now it's time to do the neck shaping. So the first part of the neck shaping is exactly like we did the back, where you knit across one shoulder, you bind off for the neck scoop, and then you knit across the other, and then you start working back and forth. So it's pretty much everything for this shaping is the same as we did on the back, except for there's this weird little part that says slip 1, bind off unworked stitch from last row, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to show you what that is. Okay, so I'm on the wrong side here, and it says on rows 1, 3, and 5 for the neck shaping, you're going to purl all the way across, but you're going to stop at the last stitch. Okay, so it says purl to the last stitch. So I've got 3 to go here. So I'm going to do 1, and then 2, and then 3. Okay, so this one I'm going to leave undone. Now I'm going to very carefully try to turn this whole mess over like this. Okay, so now it says that I'm going to slip 1. So this one is the one I'm going to slip. So I'm going to slip 1. And then it says bind off unworked stitch from last row by pulling it over the slipped stitch. So this is the one from the previous row. I'm just going to slip it over right like that, okay? And then it says to bind off a few more stitches. In my case, it says 3. So then I'm going to go ahead and do 1 and 2 and 3, okay? And then it says to knit to the end. So then I would just knit all the way to the end like this. Okay, so the rest of this part, doing the neck shaping on the front, is pretty straightforward. I'm looking through the pattern here, and it says after you do a little bit of shaping in the beginning, then you're going to work in stockinette stitch until the side measures 6 inches from the armhole. So you're going to go straight a little more, and then there's a little more shaping with the wrap and turn, which we know how to do. Then you're going to break the yarn and put the shoulder on waist yarn, put those stitches on hold, then you're gonna join and do the other shoulder. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna shape both sides of the neck, and then I will meet you back here for joining the shoulders together, so then we can cast on the sleeves.